An event at in Kilifi, of course. She was the speaker there, and that's how we got to connect since there. It was a Rotaract event. That is where you spoke about personal branding. I remember very well, and today I'm using personal branding to introduce you. So she's a property manager of Mandarini. If you go to Kilifi, you go that big signboard after the bridge, Mandarini Kilifi. She's the project manager there. And not only that, she's a motivational speaker in motivating our generation. That is her own passion that she's pursuing. So I would have said much about her, but I believe you have the time to tell us about you. Let me not see it on the fence and start speculating about you. So ladies and gentlemen, let's have the warm welcome of having Mihaki Kahiga tell us her story. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I think what Vincent has said is already an introduction, but I would like probably to say a few other things. That I am a mother. I have a 12-year-old son. My son would have been here, but he decided his auntie's home is much better than his mother's for the last 2 weeks. So here I am tonight, and I have to say that I appreciate being here. When people tell you that they want to listen to your story, the first thing that comes in your mind is, why my story? Why not anybody else's story? When I look across the table, I see faces that I've seen before. Some I've only seen on Facebook. Some that I have seen take a drink or something in our restaurant, and then they tag the location, and I get to see them. And obviously, I've shared a platform with Carol in the past. I have shared a platform with Vincent in the past. I met this girl who is just right to me when I was speaking at JPOD a few months ago. And yes, we are all diverse. We all have a story. We all have a background. We all have where we came from. So beyond being a mother, I'm a property and hospitality manager. Now that's my profession. When I tell people that I'm a property and hospitality manager, they ask me, well, what's the combination? But the combination comes from the fact that the company that I work for does development. So basically we buy land as a company. We develop that land into houses. Then we sell those houses to individuals. So if you're saving money for a second home, you should be speaking to me after this. Then once we start renting out those homes, we give an income to the homeowner. So that's how my job is basically 2 in 1. So I run the management aspect of the development, and then I have a team that does the rentals. So, and I come in, this is my role in that aspect, is I come into the development when it is in the last stages. So when you're building the last part of your construction, when you need the cleanup to be done, the snagging to be done, the interiors to be done, that's where I come in, so that I transform a construction site into a hospitable place. I have done that for the last few years, but that's not where I started. I started in hospitality, not where I started in terms of being who I am today. When I finished high school, which is obviously a few years ago now, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I cleared school and went to Nairobi University, got myself admitted, but unfortunately I did not get to go to the school part. And that was because there was one thing here and there. So I did not actually choose to be a hospitality or property manager. I came by default many years after. And by default, I mean it came out of the fact that that was what was available. I've had a long journey. I don't want to bore you with the nitty-gritties of my past, because you're all past that level, except this girl who's just finished university. But I would like to touch on it a little bit so that you understand where I am coming from. so that you get to know why I am saying where I am, not by choice, but something that just happened by default. When I was in high school, let's go back a few years, my parents were struggling to pay my school fees. And unfortunately, you know that is a case for many children in our world today. That is a case for many people that are on this level today, that you struggled through high school because there was no money. And I ended up working as a student. I was working in school to raise my own school fees. That was in Form 3. I had to sort of kind of drop out of a boarding school into a day school to be able to do that. When there was no opportunity to continue in the boarding school, my mom took me to a day school, and I had to pay my way through Form 2 and Form 3. But when I was in Form 4, I got a scholarship, and I finished my Form 4 year very easily with high hopes that I was going to go to university. And of course, because I was a bright student, there was hopes that that university was going to come. My dream was to be a lawyer. It did not happen. And this is when you have all your friends, they've all got out of high school, and the next step is we are going to college. And you know how that is. Twendeni tukasome. But unfortunately, it didn't happen for me. So when this did not happen, I did not have a choice. I had to move on to the next level. So I started my career world or my career environment before I went to any college or any university. I came into the coast, which was maybe like 6 or 7 months after high school, when I realized I wasn't going to go to university. I came into the coast and I visited a friend. While I was visiting the friend, I decided, let me look for a job. And my first job ever was as an untrained teacher. Did an untrained teaching for 3 months, and God knows I did not feel it. It's those ones of, I am doing this to get a salary. And I looked at it and I said, I don't think this is right for me. And not just for me, it's not right for the kids. So I decided I needed to find something different. And it's been a long journey from being, from trying to fit into, trying to figure out what I was going to do in a world where what I wanted to do wasn't going to happen. Tried my hands in teaching, which did not work. Then I went into the supermarkets and did promotions here and there. Then I went into small-time jobs every now and then, contracts here and there. And eventually I got a small job to hold onto a bureau for someone that was going to get married. So this lady had a job, but she was going to get married, and the owner of the business said, can you come and hold? And while I was there for those 3 months, my life sort of started taking shape. And let me not say it just started taking shape, because it was not just a transition. It's while I was there, very frustrated with my life, like I had no idea, where am I supposed to go from here? How am I supposed to build my life from this position? And my parents had separated for a few years at this point. So obviously there was no going back home, yeah? How are you going to go back home when there's a bit of issues there? My siblings were not in school. So at 20, I have a burden of thinking about our children and what was gonna happen to their lives. So I'm not just worried about me. I'm not just worried about how I'm gonna build my future, but my siblings were looking at me. And I'm in this dilemma of what I wanted is not happening, and there is no hope that it's going to happen. So one day I am seated in this bureau, and somebody made a phone call, and I happened to be the person that was on the other end, and I received that phone call. And he said, my name is Mr. Kadri, And I said, my name is Moihaki. And he said, do you want to work for the richest man in Malindi? And I said, yes. I mean, it was just, you know, the usual casual talk. I'm gonna work for you. And Mr. Kadri said, why are you working for Hamisi? Hamisi was the owner of the bureau. And I said, because Tabia has gone to get married, and so I'm just holding on to her job. And he said, when you're done holding her job, come and find me. And so somehow through this holding on to someone else's job, I received this phone call. And I always look back today and ask myself, why did he tell me why did he ask me whether I wanted to work for him? The first thing I look at is Mr. Kadri must have felt something in my voice. It was not just the casual, someone received the phone call. There must have been something that he had. And I keep telling myself it was some bit of confidence that I had tried to build within myself by reading here and there and trying to build up my life. Now, long story short, Mr. Kadri tells me to go and see him, and I went to see him. But the day I was going to see him, I called him and he asked me a question. Do you use computers? Do you know how to use computers? I said, yes, I know how to use computers. I was very confident I know how to use computers. I did not know really, but having been a leader in school, I was the head girl in school, and so I had access to the computers in school, and I had access to the teachers and everything. So my hands knew what a computer was, and I knew how to fiddle my way around a computer. So I said I knew how to use a computer. And so he said, make sure you come with your papers. And I was like, I don't have any papers. So I called Hamis now, who was the owner of the bureau, and I said, Mr. Kadri wants to see me and he's going to give me a job, but he asked me for a computer paper, which I don't have. And Hamisi told me, go to Malindi, see Mr. Wawero. If you're sure you know how to use computers, he will give you a test. Because now there is no time to study, is there? He will give you a test, and if you pass, he will give you a certificate. So confidently that morning, before I went for my interview, I went to Mr. Wawero, and Mr. Wawero happily gave me a certificate, which I use today. So that's very much a River Road one, right? But despite the fact that it is a River Road one, he gave me a test for 2 hours. So I sat there and I convinced him I knew how to use a computer, which is, I mean, I don't even know why he believed me, or maybe because he had been called by Hamisia, probably the connection. So anyway, I went to Mr. Kadri and I got a job as a personal assistant for him. He used to run a workshop, and his workshop was doing furniture production. If you go to Watamu today, there's a big workshop that is called Samadari. So there's Timboni Hardware then is now Samadari, and they do the most beautiful furniture there. And I worked there for about 3.5 years. Worked for Mr. Kadri as his personal assistant for about 6 months with a salary of 4,000 shillings. And then my salary got increased kidogo from 4,000 to 6,000 to I think 9,000 eventually before I graduated to living. But before I left Mr. Kadri, the stages of what I learned there were very crucial for me. So you've gone in as a personal assistant. Who doesn't know how to use a computer? But yeah, you learn along on the job, and you understand how to use computers and to do quotations and to deal with customers and to smile at everybody. And before I went to Mr. Kadri, I think I was the softest person I know. Those people who just cry because someone said something, or if you step on me, I would crash completely. I used to be those people who didn't talk a lot, and the best friend I had those days was probably my Walkman. and the many books I read, because while I wasn't doing anything, the best thing I could do was go down the beach and carry a novel and read it. So those were my friends. Anybody else was third party and an enemy. And if you tried at all to step on me, I would crash completely. I would cry for 3 days. And I used to feel like the world was against me. You know, the way everything small happens and you just think everybody is against you, yeah? That was the person that walked into Mr. Kadri's place. But the girl that left Mr. Kadri a few years later was completely different. Was different in the essence that I had grown up. I had grown up to be a girl who understood what I wanted. At least I was on the path to understand what I wanted. I had moved from being a personal assistant to Mr. Kadri who did not know how to use computers, to someone who was an expert in computers, to someone who could speak to customers, to someone who could deal with the customers and deliver. And it didn't take me too long before Mr. Kadri put me in the workshop. And this workshop used to be run by an Indian guy who had come from India, so he had all the knowledge in furniture production. But somehow I fitted into his shoes within not too long. I think probably in about a year and a half or 2 years. And so I did furniture production. By now, you've realized I've been a teacher. I have worked in supermarkets. I've been in a bureau. I have now somehow become a personal assistant to someone. And I am now doing furniture production. Basically, I wasn't doing the machines or anything. I was supervising and making sure that the guys were working and running the workshop for Mr. Kadri. And I did it for a few years, and it gave me handy skills. Like, I know how to use a randa. You know how to use a randa yourself? No, like proper. My first kakabati, the one, you know those two cabinets you have to put your vitungus and whatnots? Mr. Vitungu? That one. I made it myself while I was in that workshop. The thing that this opportunity for me gave me was, Mr. Kadri was a very hard boss in terms of, he knew exactly what he wanted and there was no bargaining about it. So if he gave you an assignment, you had to deliver. And so I learned how to work hard and to deliver no matter what. And while I was there, I transitioned now into hospitality. And how does this happen? It's Mr. Kadri got an order from a hotel called Ocean Sports. You probably all know it. And while I was doing the furniture for Ocean Sports, the manager comes in and says, I need all this furniture in 2 weeks because we are doing a soft opening and we have nothing. And I promised that we would get it done. So I spoke to the guys in the workshop and we agreed we were going to do overtime and everything, and we delivered. And after delivering, I was asked whether I wanted a job in the hotel. And not just a job. They asked me if, she said, you're so good at what you do. You speak so eloquently. And you have actually delivered. And I'm looking for someone to do reservations. I am thinking, I don't know what reservations is. It's a foreign name. But yes, I said, yes, I can do it. There is this phrase that Richard Branson puts out there, that if someone gives an opportunity, you say yes and go learn Belembele, yeah? So that's exactly what I did. I said yes. There's something I left out in between working for Mr. Kadri. There's one point where we kosana, and while at that, I have managed to get pregnant and I have a baby boy. And so during the pregnancy period, I went into Temple Point Hotel and trained as a receptionist. So I'm not just walking into the hotel completely green. I've got a bit of knowledge of what happens in the hotels, but not much. I have never done reservations before. But anyway, I walked into the reservations office and there was nobody to hand over to me. I was given a computer with invoices and documents, read through them and please start answering the emails. And my journey through the typical hotel setup, which is something like this, the Tamarind is, was learn through it yourself. Reservation for like 3 months. Then they realized I was too good at what I was doing and they promoted me to become the front office manager. You see? Like seriously, you guys? Do you even know what you're doing right now? But anyway, they've given me the management role, and which I accepted and did front office management at this point. Then obviously duties start increasing. I become a duty manager. Everybody thinks that this girl is just, I don't know what they could see in me because I couldn't see it, but they kind of just keep heaping responsibilities on me. And now I am doing marketing, I have a team, I've got like a team of 20 people that are reporting to me. Housekeeping becomes a mess, and whom do they take there? Rosemary goes sort it out. And within a year, I was dying. Why? Because you've never worked with this kind of pressure. All of a sudden, you're a manager, and everything just seems like you're flying. You were in the ocean, where you were surrounded by water. Now I'm in the air there, out there, and the only thing I can see is open skies, and there's no one to hold my hand. If I make a mistake, I would fall to a pit that I don't even know where it is. Anyway, I crash. How do I crash? I start making mistakes because everything is just too much. Everybody is on your neck. You're working hours that are too many. And I have a small baby at home, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I went back to my crybaby girl. Like, you make a mistake, you touch me, and I'm just gonna cry. So one time, the lady who was the manager, her name is Helen Cowart, tells me to plan a trip to Mombasa. So I need to tell the driver to be there at 6 a.m. to pick them up and ensure that they have the shopping list and all that, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I forgot. So the manager and everybody is there at 6 a.m. The driver is not there, the car is not there. And so she got very mad. When she called me into the office and she started scolding me, I looked at her, I was so frustrated, I just started crying. And at that particular point, I make a decision that I don't think this is what I want for my life. Despite the fact that it is very entertaining and hotels are fun, it doesn't sound like I can hack this. So I start thinking of what's the way forward. And about a week before then, a client of ours was walking down into the hotel, and there were steps, and she was using walking sticks. She was on crutches actually because she had had an accident. And because I was very vocal and very good at what I was doing at the reception, I offered to give her a ticket so that she does not have to park at the top. She would park at the reception area and she wouldn't have to walk. And after my episode in the office, my colleague says, by the way, I've been told to apply for a job with a property management company, but they want someone who knows how to use Excel. And she said, you know, I don't know how to use Excel. I said, I don't know how to use Excel, but I am applying for this job. And I went into the interview room, and whom do I find? The client that I gave a pass. And I didn't even have to do the interview properly because she already knew that I could do the job out of what I had done a week before. And so I get a job in property management. I'm trying to crash this so fast because I was told I have about 35 minutes. Now, what am I trying to say? That since I left high school with my Form 4 papers, despite the journey being hard, I had not been out of a job, really, yeah? I don't think I had a stint where I can say there was a time I didn't have a job, really. Maybe a month or so, but not because I couldn't have a job, but because of one reason or the other. So what am I trying to tell you? I didn't take my papers It did not take that I knew someone, because I did not know anyone at the coast. I had come from upcountry. It took God's favor to hold me through this journey and to take me from a Form 4 girl that had come from Nyeri in a foreign land in Watamu to find my way in a land where being a pretty young girl meant you would get a mzungu and life would be easy. But God gave me another channel. He gave me jobs, despite the fact that they were not all well paying, but they were there. And I did not suffer too much through it. Every job that I was given, however small, I worked so hard. I delivered for everything that I was asked to do. And sometimes I even overdid it. Why? Because I was coming from a background where things were difficult. And for me, poverty is not somebody that I want to be friends with. I have always wanted to work so hard because I don't want to go back to that life of lack, that struggle, those struggles of where we had come from. I mean, I saw my parents struggle to pay my school fees. I went to school without shoes like everybody else. And so for me, despite the fact that I did not have the opportunity to go to university, I had to do the best for everything that I was given, however small it was. Now, I transitioned from hotel to property management without qualifications. Are you with me? Yes. Yeah? Without a degree, without experience, but I somehow transitioned, and automatically now I become a property manager with a company that was then called Langata Link. They are today called Property Link Africa. And I managed their branch in Watamu for a few years. Long story short, I worked there for a while, and 2 years down the line, my current boss, who I have worked for the last 9 years, gave me a job also in property management. They had built this development in Watamu, which is called Blue Bay Cove. And Blue Bay Cove is absolutely beautiful. They needed a manager to run the property, transition it from construction to hospitality, and run it. Now, I have never run a hotel. I have never managed a development of that capacity, but when he interviewed me and asked me whether I was confident I could do it, I said yes. I believed in me, and I knew I have a God who gives me strength to do whatever I believe I can. Now, let me take you back a few years to when I was in primary school in class 7. I read this book by Ben Carson, and there is this phrase that Sonia Carson told Ben Carson when he could not be anything, he could not study or anything. And Sonia said to the son, you can become anyone you want to be. The only difference is you become better. You can become better than those people. And I sort of believed in this theory, and I took it for myself. Mwehaki, you can be anyone. And that's what I believe today. I can become anyone I want to be. I've tried to convince people that I didn't go to university in America. They say, oh, who are you? She's playing games with us. I've tried to convince people that what I am and what I have become is out of God's grace and my hard work. And they're like, tell us the truth. You probably had someone paying your school fees all the way to Oxford. I'm like, okay, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. But I know that hard work pays, my friends. I know that whatever opportunity you're given can be an opportunity to open the many doors that you want in your future. You just have to believe in yourself. And beyond that, I had to learn to believe in myself, because at some point I had lost faith in myself even. And so when I met Frizo Abing, who is my current boss, I think the most amazing bosses that I have. I've worked for them for the last 9 years. This is my 9th year. They left me Blue Bay Cove in Watamu, and I had to learn how to do marketing for hotels, list the property on online booking engines, do bookings.com, run a software for hotel bookings, which is Knightsbridge and all that. And everything that I have ever been given, which is I find strange, and I ask God why, but I think God just kind of wants me to learn the hard way. So everything that has come my way is dumped there. This is Knightsbridge system, booking system. Install it and learn how to use it. And you don't have a boss sitting there, because my bosses were based in Nairobi. And by the time I left Blue Bay Cove 5 years after I took over, the property was thriving, the homeowners were happy, and Mandarini was under development, and my bosses did not know whether I wanted to stay at Blue Bay or I was going to come to Mandarini, so I was asked to choose. What do you want, Rosemary? Do you want to come to the next? Because I've reached a point where the job is boring now. See, I know everything. Within 3 hours, my day is done. They asked me whether I wanted to transition from Blue Bay Cove to Mandarini, and I chose to come to Mandarini, where I have been for the last 3 years, working for the same bosses. And currently, my bosses, one of them lives in Netherlands, the other one is in Nairobi. I haven't seen my bosses for the last 1.5 years. We are running the property, and it's profitable. I did not need some form of education, because education, as good as it is, it's not what makes you successful. It's your brain, your attitude, the way you look at things. By the way, yes, I went back to school 11 years after leaving high school, and I did a business management course, which I graduated from last year in December. So I have a BBM on my shoulders, tap on my back, which is great, by the way, because in this country you won't just tell people how well you did for yourself and you have no papers and they just look at you and think, what? You think this is America, where people tell us I was sleeping in the car for 5 years and now I'm a millionaire, and they appreciate you. But anyway, I did my course, and in between there, I have done a few other small courses here and there. I always had a passion for public speaking. Now let's go to the juicy part. You have all heard how I have worked hard for everybody else, yeah? Running people's companies and making them successful and being, and I think I realized that the only reason I never lacked a job is because I was very stupid in a way. I was very stupid to not see the capacity within me that was making these people employ me. Why did I never lack a job? Why whenever I got a job, I thrived? Why? My eyes were so blind, I did not see that capacity that I had within me. I only saw the job and the money.